The Warriors graphic novels have officially been upgraded from one trilogy to two with the release of the first The New Prophecy entry, and I could not be happier. I loved the entire first graphic novel adaptation for its ability to bring the stories we love to life while adding, altering, and omitting details to remove some of the flaws of the original. Now, having read the first TNP entry, I can say with certainty that the same thing has been done, and with an even greater effect on the story, considering the arc it is adapting. Before I get any further, though, I want to give a preemptive warning that I will, naturally, be spoiling The New Prophecy in this video, both the graphic novel and the prose story it is based on. If that's something you'd like to avoid, hop off now. The biggest change from the original arc's graphic novel adaptation is the team behind it. This time, the adaptation work was done by Gibson Twist, and illustrations were done by Sammy Savos. Considering how long-winded The New Prophecy could be, I really appreciated Gibson Twist's ability to narrow in on the important dialogue, or change scene setups entirely to both make them more efficient and allow them to work as better character moments. And the character is added to tenfold with Sammy Savos' art. She gives the cats an overall more realistically proportioned style than the first arc, but with tapered paws that lead to an almost rubber hose style in some shots, which only ever adds to the cuteness. The backgrounds also fit seamlessly into the style, providing simple backdrops to dialogue-heavy scenes and gorgeous detail and shading when shots of movement or montage call for it. Particularly for an arc based on so much travel and new environments, this feels like an important detail to get right, and Sammy Savos absolutely does. The designs of all of the first arc's cats are carried over faithfully from the first adaptation, but the new designs fit in right alongside them. From Squirrelpaw's short, round form and fluffy tail that nearly matches the size of the rest of her body, to Midnight's otherworldly, ethereal badger form. One thing you will note if you are switching from the first arc's graphic novel to the second is that, while the cats here all have very distinctive color and pattern designs, along with unique posing and expressiveness, the overall proportions and anatomy of the cats stays more consistent through the cast in the TNP style. None of this is to say I prefer one over the other, because I honestly just love both styles. But there is a difference, and which one you enjoy more will mostly be based on personal preferences. In any case, the art here will only ever enhance your experience of the story, characterizing each member of our cast and seamlessly transitioning you between the several environments involved, without you even taking conscious note of it. On the adaptation side, I have to say that this book is proving how wonderful the cut-down format can be for The New Prophecy. This 138-page graphic novel condenses the plots of Midnight and Moonrise, which have a cumulative 656 pages. The graphic novel spends roughly 60% of its time on Midnight and about 40% on Moonrise. This means they do have to cut out a lot, but The New Prophecy has a lot that not only could, but should be cut out, so I honestly find the final product to still work as a seamless story, and one I take fewer issues with than I did the original. To give a more specific idea, though, let's run through the beats of the graphic novel. We open with the prologue you're familiar with, StarClan choosing the 4 cats to face the darkness foretold by the prophecy, and Brambleclaw hearing the midnight prophecy from Bluestar. Squirrelpaw wants to come with Brambleclaw and Graystripe on a hunting patrol, but isn't allowed to make that decision as an apprentice. Leafpaw cheers her up, but naturally Squirrelpaw goes out anyway. They run into a badger, which they escape by climbing a tree, and Thornclaw drops some wisdom that a badger would kill just for fun. So if you ever see one, you run. Sorreltail has her warrior ceremony, and the clan heads to the gathering, where Firestar catches up with Mistyfoot and is introduced to RiverClan's newest warriors, Hawkfrost and Mothwing. Hawkfrost and Brambleclaw are introduced, and Hawkfrost seems very interested in him, already knowing his parentage. Brambleclaw also runs into the rude Crowpaw and is reintroduced to Feathertail and Stormfur by Graystripe. There's a drought through the forest affecting every clan. Tallstar asks Leopardstar for access to RiverClan's water until the end of the season, and after a prod, she agrees. Tawnypelt also comes over to speak to Brambleclaw, and some choice wording leads both of them to realize they had the same prophecy dream. Tawnypelt tells him to meet her on the night of the new moon, as Nightstar specified, and they'll hope to meet the other cats. Back home, Squirrelpaw is out with Leafpaw as she searches for herbs, and the two of them bond as they discuss their respective roles in the clan. Brambleclaw makes his way back to Four Trees, only to be ambushed by Squirrelpaw, who, naturally, won't go back to camp now that she knows something is afoot. Tawnypelt arrives too, with Stormfur and Feathertail close behind, and Crowpaw coming last. Although Crowpaw does leave quickly once he realizes the others don't know anything, considering his warrior ceremony is so close. Leafpaw was also aware that Squirrelpaw was running through the forest the previous night, thanks to a magical sister connection. Brambleclaw has a dream of drowning in salt water, and Ravenpaw visits to warn Firestar about encroaching two-legs. When Brambleclaw tells Ravenpaw about his dream, Ravenpaw tells him about the sun-drowned place, which he heard about from a passing rogue. Brambleclaw lets Feathertail, then Crowpaw, and finally Tawnypelt know, and they all plan to head for the sun-drowned place together. Squirrelpaw naturally insists on following along, no matter what anyone else says. Leafpaw heads them off to say goodbye and pass on traveling herbs, though, knowing they are heading off on a journey, even if she doesn't know where. The traveling group set off together, stopping at Ravenpaw's farm to rest for the night before continuing their travels, through hunting, thunderpaths, fields and forests, and into the backyard of a dog and a two-leg kit. All proved to be fearsome challenges to face. Tawnypelt gets her saltwater sign and they meet Purdy, who finds them delicious cat food and koi fish and leads them straight towards the big water place he's heard of. Or rather, in the opposite direction of it. By accident, of course. Feathertail also gets her salt sign, which begins a minor spat between Brambleclaw, Crowpaw, and Squirrelpaw. After a rat attack, Tawnypelt is left with a bad bite. Crowpaw receives his salt sign, and Squirrelpaw intentionally calls out to Leafpaw through their connection, who feels the bite herself and sends back the taste of burdock root. Squirrelpaw hunts it down, explains how she got this answer from Leafpaw, and then utters one of the funniest new line additions in the book. "You all had dreams from dead cats telling you to go on a quest, and you think talking to my sister is weird?" It's of course backed up by beautiful expressions from Crowpaw and Brambleclaw. They arrive at the sun-drowned place, Brambleclaw falls off the cliff, and they meet Midnight the Badger. She explains they traveled together to become one, as the clans now must, when they leave the forest and find their new home. A dying warrior will show them the way. Feathertail asks if it's one of them. Ironic. Back at home, Firestar has been searching endlessly for his daughter, and Brambleclaw, and they find WindClan taking prey back across ThunderClan land. Mudclaw and Ashfur get into an argument, but Firestar says they will take WindClan's word, this time, and One Whisker promises WindClan won't forget this. While out with Leafpaw, Cinderpelt receives the Fire and Tiger omen. She tells Firestar, and as he reaches out to Leafpaw, she tells him where Squirrelpaw and Brambleclaw are, and how she and Squirrelpaw have a magical connection. But they can't rest in comfort for long, as the two legs are officially destroying the forest. Firestar announces this at the gathering, but between Hawkfrost's accusation of WindClan hunting on RiverClan's territory and the revelations about all the missing cats, no cat pays it much mind. Leafpaw gets to meet Mothwing, who is now training to be a medicine cat. The traveling cats reach the mountains and get caught in a flood, which a group of tribe cats saves them from. Brook meets Stormfur in much the same way Silverstream met Greystripe, in fact. Leafpaw and Mothwing go to the Moonstone. The clans note that most of their prey has been either absent or poisoned, and Leafpaw gets to meet Spotted Leaf, who says Leafpaw has a great future in store and that Spotted Leaf will walk with her through all of it. Dappletail stubbornly insisted on eating some of the possibly infected prey anyway and got sick, prompting Leafpaw and Swirltail to gather herbs for her. On the way, they run into Reedpaw, who nearly drowned, and Leafpaw crosses RiverClan's border, with Mistyfoot's permission, to save him. Mothwing comes by with Hawkfrost, and she isn't able to help as easily as Leafpaw, which Hawkfrost seems mad at her for. Leafpaw overhears a conversation between the two siblings, where Mothwing says Hawkfrost is sounding like Tigerstar, and Hawkfrost responds that he was misguided and broke the code. But there is an opportunity coming, and he's going to take it when it does. Mothwing says it may be his opportunity, but no one else's, and Leafpaw leaves very distraught. Oh, and when Leafpaw asks for Swirltail's opinion of the siblings, Swirltail mentions that they're both very pretty, unlike Brambleclaw, despite he and Hawkfrost looking alike. But it did take too long to find the herbs, and Dappletail is already dead. The traveling group hunts with the tribe and does pretty well at it, becoming actually excited about their cooperative style of life. Stormfur has a moment to talk to Brambleclaw about cross-clan relationships, as he thinks of both Brook and Squirrelpaw. And Crowpaw and Feathertail go out hunting together and say they'd enjoy being together anytime, even when they don't live together anymore. The clan cats are asked to stay in the cave, or as Crowpaw calls it, kept as prisoners, until Stoneteller arrives for the telling, to explain the danger of Sharptooth and the coming of the promised silver cat who would kill the beast, Stormfur. He says the rest of the cats can go to save their clans, but Stormfur must stay. However, they don't even get through an argument about this before Sharptooth arrives, and the clan cats, led by Crowpaw, use the confusion to get out. The menacing Sharptooth kills a cat, Star, and the tribe starts calling that the promised cat is abandoning them and they don't know what else to do. At that moment, Stormfur gets a vision of Silverstream, who says StarClan, and she, is proud of him, and points out that the tribe are just as courageous, faithful, and loyal as the clans, and deserve help when they need it. She then says that questions have more than one answer, and not everything is foretold. Stormfur tells everyone he wants to go back, and Feathertail is the most vehemently against it, considering they lied and put her brother in danger. Stormfur is going and won't ask any of the others to come with him, but Squirrelpaw asks if he'll take volunteers because she has a plan, using the deathberries she was warned about earlier to poison Sharptooth. Most cats don't think this plan will work, but they agree to go because otherwise Stormfur will get himself killed. When they get back, the tribe is burying Star, and Stoneteller gets angry with them for running away in their time of need. Brooke convinces him to listen to their plan, but first he wants them to bury and honor Star with them. As you know by now, though, the poison plan doesn't work, and Stoneteller orders the tribe to attack, either ending Sharptooth's tyranny today or leaving no more cats to hunt. But Feathertail gets an idea and asks Stormfur and the other runners to lead Sharptooth towards the caves. Sharptooth nearly corners Crowpaw, but Feathertail hears voices letting her know what she has to do. She says a quick goodbye to Stormfur and then jumps onto a stalactite, breaking it off and hurtling it towards Sharptooth. Both she and the beast are killed, just as Stoneteller realizes which silver cat saved them. Feathertail and Crowpaw get one last loving, teasing moment before Feathertail is gone. In the epilogue, back in the forest, we see some cats have gone missing by the two-leg place, Cloudtail and Brightheart. And though Mousefur thinks they ran off to be kitty pets, Firestar is sure that they wouldn't leave their daughter, Whitepaw, behind. Meanwhile, Leafpaw and Mothwing are fishing since ThunderClan prey is so low, and they share some tender moments as friends. And maybe more. ThunderClan is still having an extremely hard time, though, and with how little food everyone has, Fernclad wasn't able to feed Larchkit, and he died. Dustpelt's agony on the page is extremely painful to see. Leafpaw goes to ask Mothwing for help, but is attacked by Hawkfrost instead, who says that the coward, deserter, Mistyfoot is gone. And Hawkfrost would absolutely have threatened Leafpaw further if not for Mothwing's intervention, asking him to let ThunderClan starve for another season before giving them reason to declare war. Then they'll put up no fight. Leafpaw understands that Mothwing was bluffing, but also needs to ask now if her and Hawkfrost's father was Tigerstar, which, of course, he is. Leafpaw gets caught in a trap based on the smell of any food at all, and Sorreltail arrives too late to warn her about the incoming two-legs. Leafpaw is shut into pitch blackness as we are left with a to be continued. It's hard to tell based on a summary, but reading this book is a vastly more engaging experience compared to the New Prophecy's original incarnation. Almost every bit of tedium, frustration, and discomfort was stripped away, and the small touches added to the story only improved my understanding of and belief in the characters and relationships. Let's get into some of the notable changes. First of all, a lot of Leafpaw's story of life in the forest is cut completely. The fire and tiger omen exists, but is only shown once Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw are already on their journey, and even in the initial conversation of it, no one concludes that Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw are bad news together. This removes one of the most frustrating aspects of Firestar's characterization in the original, secretly working against Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw to keep them apart, and, plot-wise, to delay them going on the journey out of a fear of them destroying the forest together. Instead, Leafpaw immediately proposes, and Firestar accepts an interpretation, that Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw are out saving the forest together, which is much closer to the truth. Many of Leafpaw's daily tasks and the trips she makes with Firestar, or by herself, to visit and see other clans are cut completely, and are replaced with a few much more efficient and effective scenes. We have the gathering to show how the other clans are suffering under the two legs and have the leaders talk about their missing warriors on the journey. We kept the half-moon meeting with Leafpaw and Mothwing, but this time had it follow up on their meeting at the gathering. And most importantly, Leafpaw's saving Reedpaw has been reinforced and followed up on with a scene developing Leafpaw and Mothwing's growing friendship, and the specific verbal and physical reasons for Leafpaw to distrust Hawkfrost. It's not just a vague dislike based on his visual similarity to Tigerstar, but the fact that he openly talks about opportunities for him to achieve power. The fact that Mothwing, of all cats, warned him about getting too close to Tigerstar's rhetoric, or the fact that Hawkfrost flat out attacked Leafpaw and planned to use her as a hostage or bait to lead her father into a war. On the traveling group side, the visual medium has done wonders for the effectiveness of their light storyline, as many of the prose scenes about traveling through different random places or meeting one-off dangers can be done through vibrant montage pages, rather than several chapters of, well, filler. Having all of the characters reacting to situations like an abandoned car or the taste of cat food and koi fish also allows for many more expressive poses and expressions to further characterize our group, rather than wasting dialogue on describing the situation or having all of our characters feel the same way about their circumstances. This, combined with a couple of additional character building scenes, makes the traveling group feel much more believable as a group of companions. There is still a slight disconnect for me when we reach midnight and she explains that the group needed to form this strong bond to show that their clans can do the same. These cats know each other much better, and specific pairs seem to have formed friendships, but the group as a whole still seems to have a stronger working relationship than a friendship one. However, I still consider this a radical improvement from the original. Another of the biggest problems in the original story, and beyond, had to do with the portrayal of the tribe of rushing water, and much of that was also improved here. First of all, none of the original name trends seem to have been used here. Brook is never called Brook where small fish swim, Stoneteller is never referred to as the teller of the pointed stones, and so on. I don't know if this is because they wanted to avoid some of the native associations that come with that style of name, or because the longer names take up too much space to fit into the word bubbles they use for dialogue, but I'm perfectly fine with its exclusion. No one writing the original books could have expected the 10-year-old kids to refer to tribe cats by their full names anyway, in casual conversation. The tribe's differences from the clans are also highlighted much more respectfully. They all have swaths of low-opacity brown over them to indicate the mud camouflage they're said to have in the books. Stoneteller's role as both a leader and spiritual guide is seen, even by Crowpaw, to be a sign of power, rather than a weird separation from the clan system. And the cooperative lifestyle the tribe uses for both hunting and eating is contrasted with the individualistic mindset the clan cats tend to have. This is actually a difference that Stormfur ends up personally preferring, and is one of the reasons he already thinks living with the tribe would be kinda cool, even before any chosen cat prophecies come up. Stormfur's relationship with the tribe in general is framed in a much more equal way, with Brook saving him in the way his mother once saved his father, the tribe teaching him to hunt, and tribe runners being essential in his final Sharptooth plan, all giving him reasons to be grateful to them rather than them exclusively fawning over him. Also, when Silverstream talks to Stormfur about the tribe in his dream, she leads him to the answers about the tribe's equality to the clans rather than telling him and disappearing, which makes it more believable that Stormfur internalized this lesson. The tribe also has several things removed that made it look inferior to the clans in the original. They never drove out their own cats for failing to save the tribe. Stoneteller himself isn't nearly as cruel or volatile to either his own cats or the clans, and only asks Stormfur to stay once Sharptooth is already attacking, and the tribe are shown to be capable and well-adjusted to their environment despite the beastly threat. They respect the traveling group's mission to save their home, and only need Stormfur to stick around because of the prophecy. They were only even mad at the clan cats because they ran away while the tribe was attacked, and a tribe mate was killed as a result. Sharptooth aside, the tribe can actually fend for themselves, and we as readers are never asked to pity them for not being as strong or wise or kind or enlightened as the clan cats are. Outside of the big fixes to the new prophecy in general, this graphic novel does just as good of a job as the first arc did at enhancing the personality, liveliness, and connections of the characters. Tawny Pelt, who was previously more of a stoic character, if she had any personality at all, is here shown as more lighthearted, teasing, and sneaky, playing off her very serious brother. In addition to adding more variety to the cast, this makes for a great transition since her time in the first arc, showing that she's feeling more comfortable and happy since leaving ThunderClan, and also that she has adopted some of ShadowClan's signature traits as she grew up. Stormfur is a quiet but open-hearted character who enjoys connecting with others, be it his sister or the traveling group or the tribe. His connection with Squirrelpaw is heavily de-emphasized as a whole book isn't spent on it, but what is there actually feels more genuine as her effervescent and endlessly extroverted personality, combined with her tendency to immediately stick up for whoever she sees as disadvantaged, gives Stormfur many reasons to admire her, and allows her to bring him into the social circle in a way he wouldn't feel comfortable doing independently. Feathertail's connection with Crowpaw is similarly enhanced, because Feathertail is characterized as having a level head and genuine respect and sincerity for all of the cats around her, which allows Crowpaw to feel more comfortable around her. He doesn't have to prove himself like he does with Brambleclaw, or compete to win every discussion like he does with Squirrelpaw. He can just be himself around her, and that leads to the two of them joking with each other in the background as they become more comfortable with each other. Crowpaw's ever-grumpy personality is also given more context, as he's upset that he's on this journey with cats who he doesn't think care about him rather than at home, training for his warrior ceremony that was right around the corner. Leaving his clan feels like abandoning the tenets of loyalty he was supposed to be proving he stood for, and is taking him away from the happy, familiar life he believes he should have had. Squirrelpaw and Leafpaw have an extremely close connection, portrayed as well as, or better than it was in the original. They comfort each other, are more honest and open with each other than anyone else, and actually know about and choose to use their magical sister connection. Squirrelpaw is just as much a firecracker as she was in the original books, never letting a little thing like orders or the code or danger get in the way of her and what she thinks is right. And one of the things she thinks is right is that she is there to personally oversee anything important going on. She's Firestar's daughter, and she won't let herself be treated like a kit by anyone, especially Brambleclaw, who is explicitly stated to be barely older than her. This isn't necessarily a change, as it was implied in the original TNP arc as well, but a few years later when Firestar's quest came out during Power of Three, their age gap was widened quite a bit, and I think their relationship works much better with the balance portrayed here. Speaking of Brambleclaw, he acts as more of a genuine leader to the group than he came off as in the new prophecy. He gives rapid, collaborative orders in high-stakes situations, and by the time they reach the mountains, the group consistently listens to him, even though Crowpaw complains about the orders existing. The group is still mainly a collective where anyone can suggest ideas and they all make decisions together, but when time is precious and they all need to join under one mind, Brambleclaw is consistently that mind. He also isn't 100% stoic and humorless, as he's shown to crack his own jokes sometimes with Tawny Pelter Squirrelpaw, or even Crowpaw once they've been journeying for long enough. The one issue I have with Brambleclaw's characterization is that, like in the original, he's a very well-respected warrior that everybody trusts, and he hasn't suffered a single taunt about his father. So as we get to the other graphic novels in this arc, I'll be curious to see how they justify him choosing to train with Tigerstar and Hawkfrost. On the more minor side, Firestar is shown as much closer to his daughters and generally feels much more in line with his first arc characterization as a determined, trusting, level-headed Tom. Ravenpaw is a more assertive and even teasing character now that he's found a life he's comfortable in, and Barley is his quiet, loving husband. Purdy comes off as the bumbling old fool we know and love him to be, but he also genuinely does know a lot about the Two-Leg Place, if you can figure out how to interpret or ask for the right information, and is also remarkably capable, catching enough mice all on his own to feed the whole group. Even the minor elder character Dappletail is given more dignity instead of her, or any cat, eating poison prey just because she wasn't paying attention or somehow wasn't aware of the threat based on what had happened to clans across the forest. She ate the rabbit that killed her out of intentional desperation. She knew, and Leafpaw tried to remind her of, the threat, but she didn't listen because there was nothing else to eat, and the potential of getting sick was still better than the certainty of starvation. This alone makes the whole starvation conflict that ate up so much background time in the original books much more gripping and emotional. Even if you don't care about Dappletail specifically, you can see how much Leafpaw cares about being able to save her clanmates, and how devastated failing to do so makes her, because even with all of her advice and herbs, she cannot cure hunger. The graphic novels continue to be some of the best books the Warriors series has generated in many years, and the new Prophecies adaptation is only reinforcing that standard. Working with an arc that had so many flaws and so much fluff certainly came as an advantage here, because now TNP is becoming the best version of itself, with beautiful style and expressive characters to further liven up the world. I can only wish Gibson Twist and Sammy Savos luck as they continue this endeavor. Thank you for watching, and always remember to reach out to those unlike you with an open mind.